Welcome back to the Mastering Runeterra podcast with Jay and Bay, the #1 source for competitive Legends of Runeterra news and information. If you're looking for the best decks to play right now, be sure to check us out on Twitter at Master Runeterra or in our Discord. And if you want to take the next step in leveling up your game, check out our Runeterra team on Patreon, where we do weekly learning calls and one-on-one coaching. Now strap in and grab yourself some Poro snacks, because we are about to start Mastering Runeterra.
Welcome back to the Mastering Runeterra podcast with Jay and Bay. It's a special Tuesday edition here for you guys. We have a great show for you today. We're going to recap our $1,000 open that just happened this last weekend and the road to seasonals, which is next weekend. Super excited to play in that. I won once. We're hoping that Bay could get there. Wait, other way around. Whatever. Don't look into it. And then Worlds just got announced. You think seasonals was already huge and awesome? Now there's Worlds to qualify for. Like $200,000, almost $250,000 to play Runeterra. Are you kidding me? Mind blown. Bay, what do you say?
I'm pretty excited for Worlds. I do have a qualification, so that helps my excitement.
Are you sure it's not me? It's you. It's you.
Yeah,
it's not.
Sure. I did double check just now. But the tournament, I think, was a huge success this last weekend. Our first ever Mastering Runeterra Open $1,000 tournament. Congratulations to Lord Vaughn, who took it down with TLC, Trundle Control, Thresh Nasus, and Lee Sin. A little bit of an interesting build of Lee Sin. But yeah, I mean, Thresh Nasus was by far the breakout deck of the weekend. It was everywhere. It did fantastic.
Yeah, somebody posted I think it was after Swiss. There was no 8-0s. We had 8 rounds of Swiss. There was no 8-0s, but there was like the 7-1s and the 6-2s that made it. And out of the 7-1s, I think like maybe one person wasn't running Thresh Nasus out of like 6 of them or something like that. And then you went down to the 6 and 2s and like half or more were running Thresh Nasus. So yeah, it just crushed the tournament. Huge breakout. Congratulations, to all of our participants, especially our top 16, our top 8 that took home the money. Was so much fun. I had a blast casting those games. So much fun. I can't wait to do it again, actually. Bay and I loved it so much. We're actually going to be running it back next month after more Shurima cards are coming out. Another $1,000 tournament for you guys. Super excited for that one too. Make sure you get there. And then now, Bay, headed into seasonals. So you've won seasonals before, if anyone listening does not know this. Last season, in fact. Now, after these results from our tournament, with only a few days left, it's Tuesday today. Tournament's on Saturday. Got 4 days. What are you thinking going into seasonals? How has the metagame changed? What would you recommend people look into if they don't know what they're going to bring?
Before, we talked about Thresh Nasus being the up-and-up deck. And I expected people to catch on right about at seasonals. That's when I expected to happen. But due to this Mastering Runeterra tournament, it blew up, right? Everyone now knows Thresh Nasus is where it's at. It's everywhere on ladder. Every 2 out of 3 games I play on Masters ladder right now are against Thresh Nasus. So right now, and the shell it finds itself in is like Trundle Control, Thresh Nasus, because usually people are going to ban Trundle Control. Then you have Thresh Nasus, great matchup tables, and then third deck. So the $10,000 question right now is what beats Thresh Nasus? And people are just racing, trying to figure it out right now.
Yeah, because there's not a whole lot. One of the best decks against it is Lysandra Trundle Control, but that's always getting banned. So It's like, what else is there that's good against it and then doesn't just fold to everything else in the meta? Because you can't beat just Thresh Nasus. You have to be able to play a lot of other, play well against other decks as well. Like you say, real interesting. We thought we had our lineup set. We thought we were ready. We had TLC, we had Thresh Nasus, we were ready to storm seasonals, and then we went and held a freaking tournament right before, and now everyone knows what's up. And we're scrambling even to figure out what we're gonna do. I've been thinking about all kinds of things. You know, is there a world where you drop TLC, where you go Thresh Nasus and then 2 other decks that are solid against Thresh Nasus, and like maybe they're weak to TLC, but that's fine because you're banning that anyway. Maybe that's where you want to go.
Well, if your plan is to be good against 3 decks that are good against Thresh Nasus, TLC would probably be in that lineup, right? It's like
fair.
one of the better decks against it. It's tough. Everyone's scrambling right now. No one knows what to do. My Twitter feed is full of people going, "What? Like, what do I play? Everything's bad and everything's good." BBG's current title on his stream right at this very second is "What is even good right now?" Nobody knows. And this is what happens when you have an open format. You know, instead of like the format before where TF Fizz and Zoe Felios were just strictly the best things you could be doing. Now everything's good. So what do you play?
Yeah, because no matter what you do, you're gonna be weak to something. There's
something, yep.
There's the triple like rally decks or triple aggro that like target TLC that had some success in our tournament. But then you're gambling on how many people will bring TLC. The percentages are going to be that high, almost for sure below 50. So that means, you know, in 9 rounds, 4, 5, 6 of them even might be against lineups that are not TLC. So like, how good are you into those lineups?
Not fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, you don't auto lose to everything. You are still, you have got some aggressively slanted decks. I have seen Lucian Azir with a big uptick in play. I saw some stats from the EU ladder. It was one of the most played decks in the last few days and was doing quite a bit of winning because it does prey on TLC quite aggressively. I'm not sure what the Thresh Nasus matchup is, but you're seeing people start to go that route, which makes me even more wary of playing TLC. Like, yeah, it's the best, but now it's like it's just getting banned all the time. I'm running into other TLCs, or I'm running into people that are targeting it. It's and that's where everyone's at right now in their thinking. It's like this little rock, paper, scissors. Where do you go? How do you get a leg up? How do you get an edge? I think it's just going to be a bit of a shit show, frankly. It's just going to be all over the place. People are going to try all kinds of weird stuff, and come seasonals with 1,000 people, it's just going to be like a bit of luck of the draw. You know, you're gonna run into like literal everything. You're gonna run into all kinds of decks in seasonals, and you basically just need to be as prepared as you can. I think we talk about knowing your decks really well, more than just being like, oh, I picked this deck because it's so good, or I picked that deck because it's so good. Like, if you don't know how to play Thresh Nasus and you don't have the time to put in reps for it, I would like not recommend that you pick it up. It is very powerful, but if you're just gonna make a bunch of mistakes, then whatever edge you were theoretically gonna have in a matchup is probably just gone out the window.
You no longer have it. Yeah, 100%.
Especially
100%. So, yeah, I mean, the $10,000 question. How do you beat Thresh Nasus? How do you beat TLC? You will see the majority of lineups will not start with TLC Thresh Nasus, but I believe it will be the most popular shell for a lineup. I think, TLC Thresh Nasus X is going to be the most popular shell. So if you bring something that's ready to beat it, then you're probably good to go. But you have to be ready to beat, like, first of all, that's hard, right? These decks are not super easily counterable. And second, you have to be ready to beat it, but not lose to everything else, which is harder. You can play decks that like specifically prey on these decks, but then you just lose when you go up against something else that isn't those decks. So it's gonna be wild. I am very excited to see what comes out on top the seasonals. It's the only time I felt where I really had no idea.
Yeah, they've done a good job of balancing this metagame to the point where it's hard to get an advantage. Let's talk a little bit about the options for that third deck if people are wanting to bring TLC Thresh Nasus. So we saw Lord Vaughn win with a unique take on Lisa and Zoe with no goats and just the ability to go get moon weapons to search up some 2-drops. I saw a lot of Zoe Diana as the third deck. Zoe Vi Victor the Ruben Pile deck. I even saw
And
Easy
the Aurelian
Draven.
decks. Yeah,
That's
Ezreal
right.
Draven, the Aurelian Soul deck, Shyvana being
Of
the more
course.
popular one, I believe.
Yeah.
And Zoe being the other one. The Lee deck, so Lord Vaughn won with Lee, but Lee overall had like a 47% win rate in the tournament. It did horribly,
Womp
but then
womp.
it also won. So yeah, I don't know if it's just because of it was a different build, or just because that happened to run good that day. But yeah, Lee overall did terrible, but it also won, which is kind of weird.
So yeah, one little caveat there. I did notice people saying that they thought aggro was a little bit underrepresented in the 1K Open, which would make a little bit of sense. First off, there's only 160 competitors, so not the 1,000 that will be coming to seasonals. It's also, typically players that are a little bit more competitively slanted, right? These are tournament players. They slant a little bit more towards mid-range control kind of decks, a little bit less towards aggro. So that might have been a contributing factor to Lee being able to get there in the end.
Definitely.
What other? So that's kind of where Lee's at, right? It's good into the other mid-range decks, but then it's like weak to some of the aggro strategies. It does just fail on its own sometimes. I've been playing the deck a lot recently. I've gotten down to 15 cards left in my library, 13 cards left in my library, 12 cards left in my library. No Lee to be seen. It could be a real problem.
And then you lose.
Yeah, sometimes you just lose because you don't find Lee. So
I'm looking up the matchup data right now. I have it up right now. What I'm trying to figure out is Lee Sin's supposed to be a Thresh Nasus counter, right? Nope.
Did not do well.
Below 50%.
Yikes.
It's like 49.7.
Okay, so we have talked about this before, though. The Lee Sin deck has, the ceiling and floor for it are both very high and very low. So if you are a master with Lee Sin Zoe, it's going to perform quite well for you. And if you are not basically a master with it, you're potentially in for some trouble. So I feel like when you take a bunch of players' data and jam it together, that's kind of what ends up happening. That's why we see those it won the tournament, but had a terrible win rate. How do you correlate those two? That's kind of why.
Definitely. The deck, you have to take a deck like Lee Sin and add a couple of percentage points on top for the top players, because it's such a tough deck to execute properly. And the absolute best Lee Sin players play it so much better than the average Lee Sin player, where most other decks don't have that huge skill gap. You don't really see that. So yeah, Lee, if you see a matchup that's 48% in, or 52, 48 in Lee's favor, it's probably more than that in reality. But it just is so much harder to execute the Lee Sin deck properly that the stats show it as less favored than it actually is.
Right. What about all these other? It seems like Zoe X is often the third deck. So we've got Zoe Aesol, Zoe Diana, Zoe Vi. Talk to me a little bit about those three, the other Zoe, even on top of Zoe Lee Sin, the other three Zoe decks that potentially people might bring.
Yeah, I played a bit of Zoe Diana, played a little bit of Zoe Vi Victor, the Ruben Pile, as we've taken to calling it because of Ruben Zoo championing the deck. They even Zoe Aesol, they feel like Fiora Shen. They're something you just put in. It's your third deck because you have the two decks you want to play, and then you need another deck. And so you just pick a Zoe deck and just slam it in there. And their matchups are even enough across the board that it usually just works. So that's kind of where most of the Zoe decks are. Lee probably being the exception because Lee has some more polarizing matchups. But yeah, I'm not sure if how much I like each of them. And recently we've seen a huge uptick in the Shyvana Aesol version over the Zoe Aesol version. Guerra piloted it to second in Fight Night. It showed up a lot in our Mastering Runeterra tournament. Not a ton in the top 16, but it was pretty popular. I see it a lot on ladder. So yeah, Zoe X seems to be the go-to third deck. Like you said, you could also pick something like Ezreal Draven. you just kind of want another deck that has good matchup tables that's not super polarized in that shell, because that shell's strength is that it's very powerful and not like super weak to any like one thing.
Right. Yeah, so you mentioned Easy Draven. I'm a big fan of Easy Draven. I want to be playing it really badly. The problem with Easy Draven is that it has a rough matchup against basically those 3 decks. TLC, Thresh Nasus, and Zoe Piles are not what it typically wants to see, but then it's great against everything else. It feels fantastic against the rest of the field. So that's a really interesting one as well. I'm a little too afraid to bring it though, just because of that. Because I mean, it's close. It's close. It's right there, but I don't know.
I'm considering it. Like, I'm gonna play it some more. But,
really?
I know. Even
I never would have guessed.
No, don't talk me out of it. Tell me not to. I need to not do it.
I was trying to talk you into it. You were telling me there was no way, and now I'm out, and you're going back in. What is going on here?
I know. Well, the problem is right now, anything can be good right now. That's the problem we're having. And like everyone on ladder is like, what is going on? Right. And then, I spent all of yesterday playing like a bunch of different decks. I lost like 400 LP yesterday.
Oof.
So I got to try to gain that back. While still trying to figure out what's good for seasonals. Like the people who crack the code and find what's good will dominate seasonals. So we're all trying to be that person. We're all trying to find the lineup, find the tech. What's the deck to bring? What beats what? Like the people who really figure it out, crack the code, and find out what beats these top decks. These are the people who are gonna go far.
Yeah. So what is the question then? You want your lineup to be good into Thresh Nasus, TLC, and Zoe Pile, right? If you have a good matchup there, and then also holding your own against just aggro piles, you put those maybe together.
You cannot show up to a large open tournament and be weak to aggro. You will lose a lot. There's a lot of aggro. And then you don't even have to beat all 3 of the decks in like that lineup you mentioned. You just have to beat 2 of them. Because you can ban the other one, right? Like you could be a dog to TLC, but good against Thresh Nasus, Zoe Piles, and aggro, and you just ban TLC. So like that's or the other way around, right? You could be there to beat TLC, lose to Thresh Nasus, and beat whatever else people bring. You can just ban Thresh Nasus. But the problem is that like their matchup tables cover such a wide range. They're like just solid into just about everything. That it's so tough to present decks that beat all of these things. There's just nothing there that beats everything, right? You're always going to be weak to something.
Yeah, and that's really the crux of it at the end of the day. Man, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what actually ends up on top. There's some people out there that are just built differently. That are gonna like come up. There's like always something, we always think we're so smart. We're like, this is it, these are the decks, and then post seasonals will be like, why was anyone playing TLC Thresh Nasus? This is what you should have been doing. There's always something out there, especially as the format congregates around a deck or a few decks. It typically becomes much easier to attack that metagame rather than when things are super wide open. But again, 1,000 people, you could have a lineup that crushes aggro and crushes TLC Thresh Nasus decks, and then just run to like a bunch of like triple Targon, like I don't know, deep Scargrounds, whatever, just like all kinds of nonsense. And just get blown out. So there's like you say, there's no perfect lineup. Let's talk a little bit about like tournament prep. What are you looking to do in these last few days? Especially like, we wanted to have our lineups done like yesterday, and then just like use this week to prep.
And I did. Right? And that didn't work out.
Yeah. So I guess are you ever considering going away from TLC Thresh Nasus? Is that an option for you?
It is an option. It's just not one that's likely to come true.
That's fair.
I mean, they're just like 2 of the highest win rate decks across the entire format. They're hard to target together. And then you throw in a third deck that maybe covers some of the weaknesses, and you're good to go. You have a tailor-made like out the box lineup ready to go. Shoot, but man, like sometimes there's some decks that just like beat me up every now and then. Like, man, it sucks to play against like the Ash Noxus deck sometimes. And I'm like, oh, I should be on Ash Noxus, right? This deck's crushing things. But then you play Ash Noxus into discard aggro and you're like, that was a horrible idea. I hated every second of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just awful. So like we said, everything loses to something. And so it's just trying to figure out what beats what and where I want to be.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. We'll have another one of these out Friday, right on Seasonals Eve, if you will. It'll be interesting to see where we're at by then, and if we're like, okay, we've got it. This is where we're at. Or if like, I still don't know. We gotta wrap up this podcast so I can go test
Please,
more.
Somebody help! Yeah. If any of our viewers know, please let us know.
Please in the comments,
shoot us
tell us what we should be playing.
We're like refreshing at midnight, like waiting for someone to drop some super secret tech.
We've got it. Okay, well, you know what? At least we have a plan. It's better than no plan.
Yep.
Speaking of losing 400 LP, well, at least you are already qualified for Worlds. The rest of us out there, however, now a lot more reason to climb the ladder because of Worlds. Let's dive into this a little bit. Real interesting. So let's first off, for anyone that hasn't seen the announcement, go check out the announcement. You can find it on playerterra.com or on their Twitter. Long story short, it is going to be a $200,000 tournament. It's going to be in September. It's going to bring together 64 players from the Americas, 64 from Europe, 64 from Asia, and 64 from Southeast Asia. 64 from Southeast Asia. Those, however many that is, 200 and or some odd people. Let's see, 120, 256. What's 128, 128? 256, right?
256, yeah.
That's about right. Those 256 people are then going to compete with each other and whittle it down to just 16. And those final 16 will be the ones that are duking it out for $200,000. They haven't released a prize pool split, but 16 people into 200K, you got to think it's probably somewhere $50,000 to $100,000 for first. Not a bad chunk of change. I'll take it if no one else wants it. You can just send it to me.
I wouldn't be too upset.
No.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to bother you. You've already got.
Yeah,
you've already got money.
Very kind. It is such a pain to receive money from Riot.
Right.
Such a pain. I already had to go through it twice now.
Oh yeah. See, I wouldn't want to put you through that again. So to qualify, there's I think 3 main ways. 1, you do it like this guy. You get top 4 at one of the seasonals, either ones that have gone by, you're welcome, Majin, or any of the ones coming up between now and September. That's the easy way. Number 2 is Masters rank. So at the end of season, it's going to take the top 22 people that have, it's only going to count your 2 highest finishes. So it's not like an average across them. So basically, if you go first in 2 seasons, I think you're probably good to go. And this is really interesting.
Kevin's probably sweating right now. He got like first and then top 32. He's probably like, did I make it? Am I in?
Oh, so this is the thing though. He was first going into seasonals, but he didn't end the season first. Remember, like at least one person or a few. It was a second, yeah. So this is what happens. Seasonals happens, and then the ladder doesn't reset for like a week and a bit after. And typically everyone just kind of chills out. Everyone's it didn't used to count for anything. It was done. And someone would typically try hard, like their way up to be like, woohoo, did it at the end first, when no one was really, everyone's memeing around. Now it matters. Yeah, but now, like, frankly, I'm not super happy about that because I enjoyed taking that time off and just chilling out. And then like season would reset and be like, okay, we'd all be at platinum and try to race back up to masters. But now it's like, oh, I just got to keep grinding just all the time. But you know what? You wanted more competitive play, Jason. Here you go.
There you go. Just do what I did. Just win seasonals.
That's right.
Easy.
Just easy with seasonals. There you go. Why didn't I think of that? And then the third way is going to take in your play at seasonals. So it says you get like a point for every game win, I believe, in seasonals and in the playoffs.
I imagine it's probably match win.
Yeah, it said game win, which seemed interesting.
I think it's like set win or match win or whatever.
You would think it would be match win. We'll get more information on that. And I think that's just going forward, right? Or is that? I'm not sure if that's
it's
the
probably
past.
Retroactive.
Yeah,
it's
I thought it was.
Retroactive.
I thought it was retroactive, and I thought I read somewhere someone posted something that it wasn't. I'm not sure. Long story short, I went 1-0 drop in the last one, and I'm like, oh, well, I kind of wish I had kept playing. But
oh, that's true.
Yeah, but so that's what I thought. But I saw somewhere in our Discord, someone had posted, I think Turtle posted, that wasn't the case. That I don't think that part was not retroactive based on in each. I'm trying to read it to see if I can find the part. Points from all seasonal tournaments from Empires of the Sun, Empires of the Ascended onward will be combined into a single total. See?
Okay.
That last part there.
That makes sense, yeah.
And everyone's freaking out about that because I also was like, I didn't finish.
I dropped.
So everyone don't worry about that. If you have not played in any seasonals, you are not behind, which I like. I think that is the way to do it because otherwise people will just have a huge head start, right? They'd have a massive advantage. Lots of people that are starting now or want to jump in, I'm like, oh, well, there's no point because I'm like way behind all these other people. That would suck, right? So I like this. Also, we're up to 9 rounds now, and they all matter. So you start out 0-3. Guess what? You got more Runeterra to play. Still playing, baby.
Points.
Yeah, I like that. I like, you know what? That's if anything, I feel like that's maybe my most likely way of trying to qualify.
Seasonal points.
Yeah. Though I mean, I guess ladder is easier, quote unquote easier. Like you just put in a bunch of time and like get it. Either way, I gotta get my butt going. I gotta get winning.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get winning. Exciting though. Exciting that it's finally here. Finally announced.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've been kind of like waiting. I've been kind of sweating, like on the side. I'm like, am I gonna get an invite? Am I already invited, or are they not going to retroactively let us go?
How many seasonals do we have? So there's this one this weekend. That's April.
4.
May, no,
5.
June.
It's 5 seasonals. Yeah.
July.
It says in the article.
August. Okay, so we've already done 2. So there's this one coming up, and then 2 more.
Yeah, and so it says the top 4 players from each shard's 5 seasonal tournaments. So
gotcha.
5.
So
taken into account.
So for seasonal,
the next one's this week.
For seasonal points, then there's literally just this one this weekend, and then 2 more.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is correct.
Which is not too many. Again, which I don't know, kind of like. I guess making the playoffs. If you make the playoffs and don't make top 4, you'll have a nice leg up because that means 1, you probably had a very good record. You made the top 32 cut, and then you made top 16. You made top 8. So you had like 2 more wins. So even if you like finish in the top 8 or something, you're like the head of the pack basically for points. So if you put in 2 more solid finishes, good chance you can qualify that way as well.
Like interesting. I top 32 twice, right? But I lost immediately in the first top 32. Even if I didn't win, even if I lost in top 32 again, that's still the max. Like that's still 10 match wins in seasonals. Yeah. And there's only 5 rounds in the first day. So like I would have been head and shoulders above the rest if that was the case. So like good performance at seasonals is gonna be big.
Gonna be worth really a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We don't have the breakdown of how the points work because and I know we have people like Kever who are sitting there just like sweating like, okay, can you tell me how much everything is worth so I can put it in a calculator and like figure out what I need to do. It's gonna be the race for worlds is going to be really fun to watch, especially if we don't have to worry about it.
You beautiful son of a... Okay, oh man, the ladder had become very important, and now it's even more important. People are going to be ramping up their ladder play like crazy. There's already some animals out there that, like, I don't know how much they play on the ladder. Some of the guys at the top and girls, But like, it's a lot. It is a lot. The amount of LP, like, look at like JL1, 3,000 LP. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, on you. Yeah, ridiculous.
So it's gonna ramp it up. People are gonna be playing a lot of ladder. I know I am. I'm gonna be playing a whole bunch of ladder now, which I needed to,
but not for Worlds.
That reason.
Just because I need to practice.
Fair enough. Oh, you know, I almost forgot. If you're looking for more awesome Runeterra content, make sure you go check out our sister podcast, Runeterra Radio. Stassi and Blevins, I believe they have a swim on their podcast.
Yeah.
This week, like, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. I will be watching that for sure. That sounds like a really interesting one.
Road to Seasonal. They're gonna have swim on, talking all about it. They typically live stream it as well on either Stassi's account or Blevins. They trade back and forth, and then of course you can find them on Twitter, and then also on all the usual podcast places like iTunes and Spotify. Runeterra Radio, love those guys, fantastic. Go check them out.
Yeah.
Well, Bay, you got anything else for the people, or do we need to get back to testing?
I really need to get back testing, but quick little tidbit. If you're looking for some more lighthearted content, I did just put out a Runeterra Wrap.
You put out a Runeterra Wrap?
A Runeterra Wrap. Yeah, I hit a subscriber go on Twitch. That was what the people wanted. So it's out on YouTube, SoundCloud. You check my Twitter if you want to find it. It's also under Runeterra Flow. Or just check my YouTube channel. You heard it?
It's playing right now.
It was very fun to make. Yeah, go check it out if you guys want to see if you like it or not.
It's so good. I loved it.
Probably.
I cracked a gut listening to it. I'll link it in the show notes in the description down below. Yeah, you gotta go check that out for sure. Well done, by the way. Well done. Though I gotta say, didn't notice any J shout outs. I expect some love in the next one.
Yeah,
that's right.
I wanted to try it to fit in. Everyone knows the name of Florent somewhere in there, but I couldn't make it work.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue. Yeah, that's fair.
Didn't quite make it work yet. Maybe next time.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us. We'll be back on Friday. Also, did I say this already? We're going to start doing 2 podcasts a week. We're doing Mondays and Fridays. So we'll be back.
Just a quick little something on Monday. We messed up this time. But
yeah, what are you talking about? We knew that Riot was going to announce Worlds today because we have insider information. We don't. We have insider information because we are hooked up. We're not, but we did get those coins though. Thank you again, Riot, for that.
Yeah, we'll hit like a quick Monday or Tuesday podcast to go over weeks that have a lot of things going on. So like seasonal weeks, post big tournaments, that kind of stuff. To just cover the quick info, get you guys some more of that.
So much more going on now. There's a lot more to cover now with the World's lead up. Where are things at? Who's climbing? It'll be interesting.
Definitely.
All right, guys. All right. We will catch you on Friday. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mastering Runeterra podcast with Jay and Bay. New episodes come out every Friday. If you haven't done so already, be sure to join us on Discord, check out the Patreon team, and have a look at our deck database on Twitter at Master Runeterra. Links to all of these can be found in the show notes and description.